different worlds, same rule. They all do this, and if you don't, you'll work hard, push every day, and still lose. In this video, I break down the exact system high performers follow to stay on top. No motivation, no hype, just habits that decide who wins and who burns out. Picture this. You're visiting an unfamiliar city for the first time. The streets are completely foreign to you, and the signs are in a language you can't understand. How would you find your way around? Now imagine you don't have your phone, and you have to do everything the old school way. If you ask a stranger on the street for directions, they'll probably give you something like, turn right, then catch that bus. Just a few quick instructions. Sure, this might help you out in the short run, but chances are, you'll end up lost again pretty soon. But wouldn't everything be so much easier if you had a map? Making progress in life works exactly the same way. To succeed in this journey, it's crucial that we understand some basic principles that can guide us along the way. We've already covered part of Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, in a previous video. Now, let's complete this awareness journey by exploring the remaining habits. Author Joseph Addison once said, "When I see kings lying by those who depose them, when I consider rival wits placed side by side, or the holy men that divided the world with their contests and disputes, I reflect with sorrow and astonishment on the little competitions, factions, and debates of mankind. There's an old wise saying that sums this up perfectly. You can't take it with you. People constantly struggle to achieve victories in their lives. But what if those victories turn out to be empty? Sure, you might have gained something, but have you ever stopped to think about what you've lost along the way? We need to carefully consider what we're sacrificing in our pursuit of success. Most of us are fighting for more money, higher status, or reaching a certain level of professional achievement. But sometimes, our desire to reach these goals can blind us to what truly matters. Before you know it, what you thought were your greatest wins have actually become your biggest losses. When we know what's truly important to us, our entire lives take on a different meaning. Remember this: if your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, every step you climb just gets you to the wrong place faster. We might be swamped with work. Absolutely. We might even be incredibly productive, but we can only be truly effective when we begin with the end in mind. Beginning with the end in mind means starting your journey with a crystal clear picture of where you want to end up. To do this, you first need to define what success means to you personally. At your funeral, what would you want people to say about you? When someone gives your eulogy, what image would you want them to paint? Yes, it's a tough question, but it's powerful enough to give you a complete X-ray of your life. Maybe that reputation, success, money, or whatever else we're chasing isn't even part of the right wall we should be leaning our ladder against. When we begin with the end in mind, we can approach everything from a completely different angle. After a mutual friend passed away, one man asked another, "How much did our friend leave behind?" The friend replied, "All of it." One of the biggest problems people face when trying to become more effective is that they don't think with a broad enough perspective. They get so buried in their work that they neglect their own health. They might completely ignore the most valuable relationships in their lives, all in the name of professional success. To overcome this challenge, the book emphasizes that everyone should write their own personal mission statement. The act of writing activates your imagination and helps you clearly define what you truly want. In my opinion, writing is just as important as reading. For example, research shows that people who write down their goals are significantly more likely to achieve them compared to those who don't write them down. So instead of just focusing on immediate goals, always keep the bigger picture in mind and become the hero of your own life. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. Goethe. Successful people have the habit of doing the things failures don't like to do. They don't like doing them either necessarily, but their disliking is subordinated to the strength of their purpose. We react to urgent stuff. Important, non-urgent tasks, however, require more initiative, more proactivity. If we don't have a clear idea of what's important, what results we want in our lives, we tend to just react to the urgent. In a way, we become slaves to whatever feels urgent. You've got to decide what your higher priorities are. And then, you've got to find the courage to say no to other things. Politely, with a smile, and without apologizing. It's almost impossible to say no unless you have a bigger yes burning inside you. On the other hand, to be truly effective, you need balance. A lot of people think that success in one area of their life will make up for failure in other areas. But can professional success really fix a broken marriage or your health going downhill? This is where, if we really want to be effective, establishing balance is crucial. To live by our priorities, we need to organize our lives on a weekly basis. Weekly organizing gives you a broader perspective than daily planning does. It's not about prioritizing your schedule, but scheduling your priorities. Let's take a look at the time management matrix from the book. For this, we're going to need to draw a grid. The top left box is Quadrant 1, urgent and important tasks, like a sudden crisis that can't be ignored. The top right box is Quadrant 2, important but not urgent tasks. These are your long-term projects. The bottom left is Quadrant 3. This is for tasks that are urgent but not so important, like answering the phone. And finally, the bottom right is Quadrant 4. This is for everything that's neither urgent nor important, like playing solitaire. Once you've sorted all your tasks this way, it becomes much easier to see where to focus your efforts. While the stuff in Quadrant 1 is important, it's really the tasks in Quadrant 2 that deserve special attention. These are often the most neglected because they don't feel as urgent. But they are still critical, and they usually provide the greatest returns on your productivity. If you tackle them early on, you'll help prevent new items from popping up in Quadrant 1. Learning to say no more often so you can say yes to the people and things that matter most to you. That's one of the most important keys to awareness. I really love this metaphor from the book. The emotional bank account is a metaphor that describes the amount of trust in a relationship. If I'm kind to you, do you favors, and build a strong connection, I'm making a deposit into the emotional bank account I have with you. This builds up a positive balance in the account. But if I treat you disrespectfully or poorly, the account goes into the red. That's because I've made a withdrawal larger than my balance. When that happens, trust evaporates, and I have to watch every single word I say. It really pays to invest in this account in your relationships with your spouse and friends, because that's the only way to keep your credit high. We have to invest in our relationships. We can't allow small acts of unkindness, rudeness, or disrespect to become major withdrawals from our accounts. At the same time, we need to be clear and upfront about our expectations of others. You might have certain expectations of your partner or a friend, but they might not even have a clue that these expectations even exist. And then you get upset when those expectations aren't met. That's why you need to communicate your expectations clearly and kindly, so the other person can understand your sensitivities and you can build a healthy relationship. Yes, this takes a bit of courage, but when uncertainty creeps in, conflicts arise. Because when expectations aren't clear and shared, people tend to get all emotional. Of course, the ideal scenario, if you can manage it, is to learn to live without expectations at all. But that is the hardest part. What is it that makes you? Is it your genetics, your parents, the way you were brought up, or maybe your environment? Here's the truth. None of these answers are enough by themselves. Sure, these factors affect your life, But blaming everything on them? That's way too simplistic. Our lives shouldn't be controlled by outside forces alone. Effective people have developed a habit. They look at the world differently. We can't control everything, but we can control ourselves. So, when something happens, don't just react right away. Stop. Think. Then decide how you want to respond. When you're proactive, you get to choose how you connect with the world around you. You get the opportunity to shape your own future. Remember this: you have the power to choose. Focus on what's really causing the problem, and don't let anyone else decide how you should react. Picture this. You're in the championship game of a major basketball tournament. It's the championship game of the season. There can only be one winner and one loser. One team goes home with the trophy, while the other, no matter how amazing they played, goes home with nothing. Luckily, most of life isn't like this. In the real world, someone doesn't have to lose for you to win. Successful people work hard to create positive outcomes for everyone involved. We all have certain paradigms that shape our relationships and how we interact with others. For a lot of people, the main mindset is win-lose. They see every interaction as a competition, where getting what they want means the other person can't get what they want. Sometimes this approach works, but most of the time, it's a disaster. When you turn everything into a competition, you transform potential partners into enemies. This creates distrust and conflict, and in the end, everyone loses. Here's an example. Imagine a sales team where only the top performer gets a bonus. Everyone else gets nothing. This is a classic win-lose setup that pushes each person to only look out for themselves. When people feel this way, they might start hoarding leads from their teammates or, even worse, actually sabotage each other. The bottom line? Fewer sales overall. The better approach? The win-win mindset. One of the best ways to work with someone is to create a system where both sides benefit. I can win, and you can win too. Going back to that sales example, when one salesperson succeeds, everyone else benefits too. This win-win approach encourages communication and teamwork, and it usually leads to more sales and happier employees. The biggest victories happen when everyone feels like they're on the same team. To make this work, you need to balance what you want with what others want. Picture this. Everything around you looks blurry, so you're constantly squinting. You can't even recognize a friend who's standing just a few feet away. It's definitely time to see an eye doctor. During your exam, the doctor tries different lenses on you while you read letters from an eye chart on the wall. Finally, the doctor finds the perfect lens for you, and your vision becomes crystal clear. But what if that doctor took a completely different approach? What if, instead of testing your eyes, they just handed you their own glasses and said, "Here you go. These work great for me." You'd probably still see everything blurry, and you'd definitely be looking for a new doctor. I know, this scenario sounds totally ridiculous. But here's the thing. When it comes to communication, this is exactly how many people act in their daily lives. Most of us jump right in and start giving advice instead of taking time to really understand the problem. We often don't spend enough time making the right diagnosis. Really getting to the bottom of what's actually going on first. Effective people, they listen before they speak. Their basic rule is simple. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is the ultimate key to great communication. Most people listen just so they can respond, not to actually understand. While the other person's talking, they're either already talking back or planning what they're going to say next in their head. What you should do instead is listen with empathy. Make understanding your top priority. And I mean really understanding. When you listen with empathy, you're considering the other person's values too. You're looking at the world through their eyes, seeing things exactly the way they see them. Listening with empathy is also the key to building what we call your emotional bank account in relationships. Basically, it's like making deposits of trust and understanding. Now, imagine you're walking through a rainforest. What makes this forest so vibrant and alive? Is it the birds in the trees? The ants on the ground? Or maybe the sunlight filtering through the tree canopy above? The truth is, you can't pin this beauty down to just one thing. This amazing life comes from how all these elements connect with each other and work together in perfect harmony. This is what we call synergy in action. Synergy, simply put, means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When people with different talents come together and work in harmony, something extraordinary happens. That's the power of synergy. Every person is different and unique. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses. So, when people work together as a team, they can boost each other's strengths while covering each other's weak spots. The result? A team that's way better than any individual could be on their own. The secret to creating this kind of synergistic energy is building an environment where everyone feels safe and their ideas are valued. This means using that win-win mindset and other key habits like empathetic listening we just talked about. When you put these habits into practice, people start sharing their ideas freely. They get inspired by each other's contributions, come up with new ideas, and really appreciate the different talents everyone brings to the team. Do you ever catch yourself putting things off again and again? Honestly, we've all been there. We set big goals, but that little lazy voice inside keeps holding us back. That's exactly why we created a system to help you break out of that cycle. A complete toolkit with 4 different habit trackers, a science-backed ebook, quick step-by-step videos, and even an audio-only guide for those who just want to listen. If you're looking for real lasting change through small manageable steps, this is your chance. Check the description for all the details and a special limited time discount. Remember, real transformation starts with the right system and one small step. Picture this. You're in a huge rush, but your car's windshield is so dirty you can barely see what's ahead. When your friend in the passenger seat says, "Turn on the wipers," and you turn to them and say, "I'm in too much of a hurry. I don't have time to clean the windshield." How crazy does that sound? Actually, this same situation shows up in life itself. Even the most determined and purpose-driven people will eventually burn out if they don't take regular breaks. Sometimes, you've got to stop and recharge. You need to make time to take good care of yourself. When you're working toward your goals, it's easy to get caught up in all the external stuff. That's why you end up neglecting your own personal well-being. And here's the thing, without a strong body, a clear mind, and a peaceful spirit, all your other habits are going to suffer. Consciously invest time and energy in renewing yourself in 3 key areas: physical, mental, and spiritual. Personal development isn't just about memorizing a bunch of popular tactics. Instead, the heart of personal development lies in building lasting and powerful habits. Finally, here are the 7 fundamental principles you should focus on to become a more effective person and develop lasting habits. Be proactive. Don't let other people control how you react. Begin with the end in mind. Start every task or project with a clear goal in mind. Put first things first. Distinguish what really matters from what's less important, and focus your energy on what matters most. Think win-win. In all your interactions, look for solutions that benefit everyone. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. To build strong relationships, really listen and try to understand the other person before you judge them. Create synergy. Value differences and encourage open idea sharing to get better results through teamwork. Sharpen the saw. Keep your energy high by regularly renewing yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Spend time with your loved ones. Look into their eyes. Have real conversations with your coworkers and play with your kids to your heart's content. Now I want to ask you a question that might sound kind of tough. If today were the last day of your life, would you still want to spend it the same way you had planned? If your answer to this question is a definite no, then it's time to change something in your life.